If you're anything like me, then you are a big EFL football fan. But if you've ever wanted to be playing fantasy football, you've always had to be doing it with the Premier League or those international competition ones that UEFA like to release as well. FPL is something that I've played for years now, but always wanted to do something for my team, Lincoln City, and for the rest of the EFL. Well, the EFL listened to us, as this season they have announced the start of Fantasy EFL. So us here at the Real EFL have decided to take a look through some of the information that you need to know ahead of the start of the game weeks. So let's get straight into it then, and we'll start off actually with the Instagram post that the EFL have announced with the Fantasy EFL information. They've gone through all of the essential information on this post. Now, let's take a little bit of a look through it. So you start off by creating your team, selecting 7 players from across the 3 EFL divisions. So if you're a regular FPL player, then you'll know that this is actually slightly different. Now, you can have any players from any of the 3 leagues, but you can have no more than 2 from one club. And all 7 players are able to score you points throughout the game week. So there's no bench or anything like that that you have to worry about. Now, players can be split into different formations. We'll go through that in a little bit when we decide to build a bit of an example squad. And yeah, you also select 2 clubs as well as your players, and they'll score points depending on their results. So, as far as I'm aware, that's both the win, draw, or loss, and potentially even goal difference in those games as well. And then the points. So you score points based on the teams that you pick, appearances for the players, goals, assists, clean sheet saves, and defensive actions, which is quite interesting because that's not something that FPL have really done. They have their bonus point system where they try and do that. So this is slightly different. And then, yeah, there will be lots of different leagues. Now, there are game weeks and deadlines. So, as we know, the new Sky deal has shifted around, shall we say, the match day sort of schedule. Starting a game week now begins on a Thursday. There could be some Thursday night games. I think there's a Thursday night game in League One within the first few weeks of the season starting as well. I want to say Burton, but I should double check on that one. So Fantasy EFL have followed that same suit. Game weeks are starting from Thursday and carrying on all the way through to the following Wednesday, which could mean that you have a double game weeks. For example, those midweek fixtures a little bit later on in the season, as we know, when midweek start seriously ramping up. I think the first League One midweek fixtures begin in October. Now, unlimited transfers can be made each week, so you don't have to have the same team. You can change your players every single week. You can switch out the players up until the moment their game kicks off as well. So, if one of your picks hasn't made the matchday squad, there's still time to get a replacement. Now, that's very different to FPL, where you have to have a certain team done by a deadline. Normally, that deadline is about 11 o'clock on a Saturday morning before the lineups get announced. Now, there's also a max captaincy chip. It's a little bit like a double captain that you might have on FPL, but this one's slightly different. So this little chip you can use in any game week. You can use one in the first half of the season, one in the second half of the season, and in that you get to have the player on your team that scored the most points receive your captaincy. Now, captaincy is double the points, the same as you might get on other fantasy football game modes. And there are obviously lots of different leagues. We have set up a real EFL league, which you can join right now down in the description below. We're hoping to get that really filled up. It'll be pushed on our Twitter. And keep a little eye out during the season as we do regular updates, regular YouTube videos outlining exactly who is at the top. Hopefully, it'll be me. And there are also prizes as well. And that's exactly what we're going to have a little look at now before we build a first example team. Fantasy EFL prizes. So, by playing Fantasy EFL, you'll have the opportunity to win a host of exciting prizes. Now, monthly prizes is what it starts off with. So, those are the top overall players in the main public league for each month between August and April. And for that, you'll get a Puma football and a branded Fantasy EFL merchandise pack. So maybe you'll get a nice mug or something like that. I don't quite know. Then there's also seasonal prizes, and there's 2 different types of seasonal prizes. So first of all, you have in your club league. So when you create your team, you'll get the choice to join your favourite club's league. And if you do that, and if you can top your favourite club's league, then you'll get a free season ticket for that club for next season, 25-26 season. So that could be quite a good sort of incentive. I'll certainly be trying to win my one at Lincoln City. But there's also bigger seasonal prizes for the overall league, so for every single player that plays. Now, for that, there are a top five. First place, there's two hospitality places at the Championship playoff final at Wembley Stadium, behind the scenes tour at Wembley, hotel accommodation, Puma football, and the branded EFL merchandise pack. That would be a really good prize to be winning. Second place, you just get two match tickets, the football and the merchandise pack. And then third place, you get two match tickets for the League One player final with the Puma football and the merchandise pack. And then fourth and fifth are the exact same, but these are for the League Two playoff final. So, some really interesting prizes that could be won. Let's have a little look at trying to build a team. So here we go. Build your team. Let's go through the tutorial. Welcome to Fantasy EFL. Select your players, as we know. We've had a little look at all of the essential information so far. Then we're going to select two clubs as well. So you cannot pick a club more than 5 times in a season. So you've got to be careful on that. You can't just pick the team that are at the top of the championship and the top of League One every single week. So you have very much got to vary it around. And obviously, you've got to choose your players. Okay, right, let's get into it. So let's remove the tutorial. First of all, the formation is very much an interesting one. I can't actually figure out where it is that I can change the formation. Uh, oh, I don't know. Maybe it'll just let me do it once I've started putting actual players in. Okay, goalkeeper is going to be a real interesting one. Let's have a little look down here, first of all, at the game week fixture. So who do we think might have a reasonably easy fixture in terms of goals conceded? Who maybe struggles in front of goal? Well, I think Stevenage Shrewsbury. I wouldn't be too opposed to having a Stevenage goalkeeper in there, but maybe let's just keep on having a little bit of a look, scrolling down. Who else maybe struggles with goals? I mean, could Norwich keep a clean sheet against Oxford on the opening weekend? Potentially. Sheffield Wednesday against Plymouth Argyle. Again, I wouldn't be too surprised if Sheffield Wednesday, being the home side, managed to keep a clean sheet in that game. Going even further down the divisions into League Two. Harrogate at home to Bromley. I don't quite know on that one. MK against Bradford. I'll be honest, they're normally high scoring games. I think there was a 4-0, if I'm not mistaken, in that exact fixture last season. I don't really know who it is that I want to go for. So let's have a little look through the goalkeepers up here. So we're starting off with Elan Meslier, Ryan Allsop, Alex Palmer, again away at QPR. You see, I'm not a big fan of that. Victor Hansen at home to Coventry just seems a little bit too risky, that one. Now, Courier Die at home to Cambridge is one that I would very much be a fan of. James Beadle at home to Plymouth. Again, I mentioned earlier on. Arthur Okonkwo at home to Wickham. That could also be a really good shout. But you know what? I'm going to go for Courier Die at home to Cambridge. So now we've got defenders. Now, normally when it comes to defenders, you have to choose, normally ones that'll score goals, fullbacks, things like that. But because they've given the option of having defensive, sort of like tackle completion percentage, maybe things like that, defensive actions, to reward points, we could probably just have some of the best centre backs in this division. I'm not quite sure about Ethan Ampadu, Ahmed Hodzic. I am awful at pronouncing names. They are two very good options. But who do we think now? Junior Firpo, from what I can gather, is expected to be leaving Leeds this summer, so he's not somebody I'd go with. I would be tempted by Jaden Bogle though, because I think he's an almost definite starter considering the current crop of players that Leeds have. So I'm going to go for Jaden Bogle. Now, if we carry on going down, let's have a look for another one. Who do we think? Carl Piergiani is a defender I really, really like. Now, at home to Shrewsbury Town, I'm going to go for Carl Piergiani because, as I've already said, I think that Shrewsbury just might struggle in front of goal this season. So now let's have a little bit of a look at the midfielders. Sammy Schmodix is the most picked. and yet he's being linked with Premier League clubs, so he might not even be there at the start of the season. That just seems strange to me. There's nobody here really that's jumping out at me apart from Dan Crowley. He is a midfielder who I am very much a fan of. So do you know what? We're going to go for Dan Crowley. Away at Tranmere is a little bit of a risk, but two we're going to go for. Alex Gilby at home to Bradford. He normally does quite well. Isaac Hutchinson, I am also a fan of, having moved to Bristol Rovers this summer, but it's that first game of the season, maybe a little bit too early to be putting him into the team potentially. For keep on going down, there's not really too many options. I mean, Ethan Errahon there, Lincoln City's midfielder. I'm just not risking putting him in because honestly, I'm just scared that he might end up leaving us. Please don't let that be the case. We've got Chris Clark, who I think will do very well for Peterborough this season, but at home to Huddersfield on the first game of the season seems a little bit too much of a risk, if you ask me. There's really not too many fantastic options here, although Scott Twine, at home to Bristol City, could very much be an option. Who shall we go for? Who should we go for? Do you know what? I think we are going to go for Scott Twine against Bristol City. Now we've got the forwards. Let's have a little bit of a look at the forwards. Okay, there we go. Now I know one who I definitely want to have in here, but there's another, we need another one as well. So if we take a little bit of a look, Billy Sharp. No, we said on our free transfers video that he was an absolute stinker of a signing, so we definitely won't be going for him. I mean, Macaulay Langstaff. And Jordan Rhodes away at Crawley, I think could be a great shout actually. Hmm. I might hold off on him again and just see how he starts this second half or this sort of second season there. Joe Ironside at home to Accrington. I think Accrington might struggle this season, and Joe Ironside, in my opinion, is one of the best League Two goal scorers. So I am going to go for him, and hopefully Doncaster can start the season very much as they ended the last one. I'm scrolling down to see if the other player that I definitely want is in here. There he is, Ben House. Away at Burton, he's going to need to use a little bit of his physicality, which he's got, and his pressing skill, and that's exactly what I think he will do. He can also help with those defensive actions as well. I think he could be a good scorer in that first match week. And now for teams, again, we need to have a little bit of a look at the teams they're playing. Now, Birmingham at home to Reading is a good shout, with Reading haven't really made too many signings so far. Birmingham do have a lot of different signings to gel together, but I am going to go for Birmingham to get that victory there. And then next up, we are going to go. Ooh, you see, Blackpool away at Crawley is a good shout, but I've already got Rhodes in there. I don't know if I really want to double up per se. Okay, so I think I've got the next team that I'm going to go for, and that is actually going to be Bristol Rovers. Now that my team is complete, I've got to pick a captain and vice captain. So for this, I think I'm going to have. Do I go with my heart and go Ben House, or do I go with my head and go different? You know what? I'm going to go for Jaden Bogle as my captain. Uh, yeah, and then Ben House as my vice captain. That is my team. Now I do have to register and log in, which I will do as soon as we have done this, and I will get myself into the Really EFL Mini League. So there you have it then. That is Fantasy EFL. There was a lot of information there, a lot to get into, but it's really exciting that now, as EFL football fans, we've got that option to be playing fantasy football in that same way that all the Premier League fans get to do. So if you want to obviously get yourself involved, as I've said, get yourself in the Real EFL Mini League. The joining link is down below in the description right now. And also keep an eye out on this YouTube channel. Make sure to get subscribed because we are going to be having weekly videos on the Fantasy EFL where myself, Ivan, and Adam will all be going through our selections for the upcoming week so that you guys can hopefully have a little bit of a helping hand in choosing some of your players. So that is everything. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like. Comment who's going to be in your first team for the first match week. And until next time, goodbye.